Well, these hot summer-like temperatures have me wishing for iced coffee and lemonade and iced tea, but to be honest, that just means I'm going to be intaking a ton of sugar over the next several days, which I'm not too pumped about. But we do have some expert advice right now by our registered dietitian, Susan Watson from A Little Nutrition, when it comes to sugar, beating those cravings, beating this monster, because Susan, I know I'm not the only person out there that probably takes in way more sugar than I should.
Thanks, Kayla, for having me. No, I think that this time of year, especially with summer, there's going to be lots of treats and what we call play food, foods that just taste really good. And it could be those iced lattes and cappuccinos. I think the issue is when people think that sugar is actually addictive, or that they themselves are addicted to their favorite food product or what have you. And the reality is that there really is no such thing as sugar addiction. It's not a medical term. It's not a clinical diagnosis. And the reality is that there's no evidence that sugar acts like the chemicals that are addictive, like alcohol or nicotine in the brain. It's actually more just that perception that we have these uncontrollable or uncomfortable urges to overeat or consume these foods with sugar. So, people feel this way, but it's not an actual condition. So, there's many different reasons why we feel addicted to sugar. But the first one that I just want to talk about is restriction. So I'm sure you've experienced before where you think like, oh, I shouldn't have it. Or even what you were just saying kind of at the beginning, like it's something bad, right? The idea is when we see things as good or bad, or even just restriction, human nature is actually, we have this desire to have it more, this increased desire, or maybe even to rebel. So even just thoughts of restriction, or even maybe going on a diet or cutting things out, we actually tend to crave it more. And at the end of the day, we do have this biological drive to consume sugar more when we restrict it. So a lot of times people don't realize that. And we should take some time this summer to enjoy some of these treats and really mindfully enjoy them, because we can just see the harmful effects of restriction, or, thinking that they're bad or we can't have them. Another area that people think that don't realize, I guess, why these, strong sugar cravings or addictive feelings come on is chaotic eating patterns. So sometimes we may be super busy and running from place to place, and too long will go between eating meals. And then what we have is this rebound hunger, where we have these intense food cravings, likely for things like carbohydrates, because they break down to sugar in our body. And it really is just, a biological hunger that we need to do is, fuel yourself. If we've gone too long and we haven't nourished ourselves and we're undernourished due to restrictions, say maybe we're cutting out a whole food group, like unbalanced meals and cutting out carbs, our body actually needs carbs to function, because those carbs break down to glucose, help our brain function, help our body move. So again, we get these intense cravings when we're maybe undernourished. The last piece is psychological factors. So sometimes what happens is maybe we've had a bad day, or we've got a lot going on, and we might turn to food to cope, which is okay. But if we don't understand that we're doing it, we might think that the food is in control of us and that we are addicted to it, or that we can't live without it. So basically what we want to do is we want to make sure that we recognize this first and realize that if we want to make change, it's going to be hard, and that we're having to undo some learned behaviors. So the first thing we can do is make sure that we're getting balanced meals, that we're not cutting out food groups, that we're eating on regular times. And another thing that's really important is maybe start a journal and write down when you're having these intense sugar cravings or feelings of addiction, and ask yourself, am I biologically hungry? Am I got stomach grumbling? What's going on? Or maybe there's something else, like a heart hunger, where we've got an emotional need that hasn't been met and we need to address that. So, lastly, working with a dietitian, we can help navigate all of this and help you figure out what is going on when it comes to your food patterns. But that's the reality, is that sugar addiction is not really a thing that we should just be more permissive with our foods.
Susan, you have given me so much hope this morning. We want to learn more. We want to know more all the time. We want to get that expert help. What's the best way to reach out to you and start getting a little bit healthier, get some more advice from you?
Yes, if you go to our website, www.alittlenutrition.com, you can talk to us or you can book an appointment to meet with a dietitian.
Perfect. Susan, thank you so much for everything.